What makes a woman crave an older man in a world filled with younger faces, louder voices, and endless options? It's not age alone, it's the energy he carries, the calm in his presence, the life in his eyes, the way he walks like he knows who he is, no longer trying to prove, impress, or chase. A woman who is drawn to an older man is not looking for perfection. She is searching for a man who has lived, who has learned, who has scars instead of excuses, discipline instead of chaos, and purpose instead of confusion. She wants the stability that only experience can teach. She wants the peace that only maturity can grow. And deep down, every mature man knows this. Youth can charm, but only wisdom can hold a heart. You are here because something inside you already understands this dynamic. You felt that pull, the quiet confidence, the slow responses, the grounded voice that doesn't tremble when challenged. You sense that a woman who seeks an older man is looking for something deeper than surface attraction. She wants emotional safety, she wants direction, she wants to feel protected, chosen, understood. But more importantly, she wants to know if the man she stands before is truly the man his aura claims to be. This video is not about tricks or seduction. It is about becoming the man she trusts enough to test. Every woman who craves an older man carries one silent question in her mind. Are you who I hope you are? And she will test you gently, subtly, sometimes directly. Not to defeat you, but to reveal you. She doesn't want a boy wrapped in a man's age. She wants a man whose presence feels like home. A man who listens with his eyes, speaks with his chest, and loves without fear. When she asks those two questions, the ones you will hear later, she is not playing games. She is measuring emotional strength against insecurity. She is checking whether you lead with clarity or collapse under pressure. These questions are doors. Doors you must walk through with confidence, not rush through with anxiety. Stay with this until the end, because once you understand what lies behind those tests, you will never fear them again. You will welcome them. You will feel the shift from trying to impress her to allowing her to trust you. Because an older man wins not by trying harder, but by needing less, not by seeking control, but by owning his peace. And when you embody that energy, her guard lowers, her heart opens, and attraction grows without force. This is where the transformation begins. Not in changing words, but in changing presence. Not in chasing approval, but in recognizing your value. If you stay with me, you'll learn the psychology behind her desires. The two questions she asks when she wants to know if you are the man she can surrender to, and the mindset that turns her curiosity into craving. You will walk away not only knowing what to say, but understanding who to become. So breathe in, sit with this moment. You are exactly where you need to be. The journey starts now. She looks at you, and the calm voice she asks, "What do you want from me?" It sounds simple, almost innocent, but this single question holds more weight than most men ever realize. She is not asking about plans, dates, or casual intentions. She is listening for certainty, direction, truth. She wants to feel that you know why she matters to you, not as a possession, but as a presence. And when she asks this, her eyes aren't searching for poetic lines or perfect answers. She is watching your energy, your breath, your tone. She is sensing whether your desire comes from strength or from need. Because when a woman craves an older man, she craves the confidence that comes from a man who does not fear honesty. Most men respond with desperation disguised as interest. They try to impress, to win approval, to say what they think she wants to hear. But she can feel the tremble beneath the words. She can feel when a man wants validation more than connection. A woman who desires maturity is not attracted to hunger. She is attracted to purpose. She wants to know that you choose her, not because you are lonely, not because you crave distraction, but because you see something in her that resonates with your spirit. She wants to know that you are not chasing her to fill a void, but inviting her because your life is already full, and you simply want to share it. This question is her emotional checkpoint, a moment where she silently asks herself, is this man leading from desire or from emptiness? You don't pass this test with poetry, you pass with clarity. a calm, grounded presence that says, I know what I want, but I don't need to take it from you for my worth to exist. Women feel safe with a man whose intentions are clean. Not rushed, not aggressive, just real. A man who can look her in the eye and express genuine interest without demanding an outcome. And here is where many men fail, not because they are bad, but because they fear vulnerability. They believe confidence means pretending they have no feelings. But real confidence is the courage to express desire without begging for reciprocation. It's saying, I am attracted to you, I like your mind, I enjoy your presence. And then allowing her the space to choose you freely. That is strength, that is maturity, that is the energy of a man who has lived enough to trust himself. When you answer her question with openness instead of tension, she feels her guard soften. Because women aren't drawn to words, they are drawn to the man behind them. The tone, the certainty, the lack of hurry. She isn't checking what you want from her, she is checking whether what you want aligns with who you are. If you speak from need, she pulls back. If you speak from truth, she leans in. Because desire without pressure is magnetic. Interest without desperation is rare. And a woman who seeks an older man is drawn to the kind of presence that makes her feel seen, not chased. This is why your answer matters. Not to convince her, but to reveal yourself. She wants to witness your inner confidence, the strength of your self-worth, the clarity of your intention. When you respond with calm certainty, you show her that you are not afraid of your feelings, and that alone makes her curious to know more. It tells her you are a man she can trust, not because you said it, but because she felt it. Then she asks the second question, and this one reaches deeper than the first. Why me? Those two words may sound simple, but they cut straight to the core of her vulnerability. She needs to know if your attraction is rooted in something real, or if she is just another option in a world full of passing interests. When she asks why me, she is not fishing for compliments. She is searching for emotional recognition. She wants to see if you notice who she is behind her beauty, beyond the surface, beneath the charm. Any man can want her body. A mature man appreciates her soul. This question reveals everything about you. A man who is unsure will scramble for answers, praising her looks, her smile, her figure, saying things she has heard 100 times before. These words mean nothing to a woman who craves depth. She wants to feel chosen, not for her appearance, but for her essence, her kindness, her dreams, her curiosity, her warmth, her femininity. She wants to know that you are paying attention, that you see her value in ways others overlook, that your interest in her is not a temporary thrill, but a genuine connection built on awareness. A woman who desires an older man is not looking for a boy who memorizes compliments. She is drawn to the man who observes, the one who notices how she talks with passion, how she tries even when she's tired, how she hides her softness behind strength. She wants to feel that you understand the layers she wears and the quiet battles she fights. When she asks why her, she is offering you a chance, not to charm her, but to connect with her. And connection is the currency of mature attraction. If you answer from insecurity, she will hear it. If you speak from ego, she will feel it. But when you speak from awareness, calm, sincere, unhurried, she is moved not by what you say, but by the truth behind it. A powerful answer is not loud or exaggerated. It is specific, it is grounded, it is real. You might acknowledge her presence, her energy, her intelligence, her depth. You might appreciate the way she carries herself in a world that tries to dull her light. When you speak to her soul, she doesn't just hear you, she experiences you. And something begins to shift. She sees a man who is not blinded by beauty, but awakened by character. A man who knows how to value the unseen parts of a woman. This is where attraction transforms. This is where desire roots itself deeper. Because when a woman feels understood, she feels safe. And when she feels safe, she opens. Not out of pressure, but out of trust. Not because you convinced her, but because you recognized her. These two questions are not tests to defeat you. They are invitations to rise into presence. She wants to feel the difference between a man who is guessing and a man who is aware, a man who reacts and a man who remains calm, a man who needs validation and a man who stands in self-worth. When she asks why you want her, and why her specifically, she is asking if you are emotionally mature enough to meet her where she is. If you answer with authenticity, respect, and grounded confidence, she feels seen. And being seen is the deepest form of attraction a woman can experience. Most men hear those questions and respond with emotion instead of presence, uncertainty instead of clarity. They rush to fill the silence, to prove themselves worthy, to say the perfect thing that earns her approval. Yet in that rush, something important breaks. Confidence vanishes. Need replaces calm. A woman instantly senses when a man is trying to win her rather than meet her. She feels the subtle shift, the insecurity in his tone, the urgency in his words, the desperation behind his compliments. It's not what he says that turns her away, but the energy beneath it. A weak man answers to be accepted. A mature man answers because he is already rooted in who he is. When a woman craves an older man, she is drawn to that difference, not in age but in awareness. A boy seeks results, a man offers presence. A boy tries to impress. A man chooses authenticity. A boy reacts when questioned. A man breathes, pauses, answers with intention. This contrast is what she is testing, not your knowledge but your equilibrium. Can you hold your ground emotionally? Can you stay composed when you're seen? Can you respond with clarity instead of panic? She doesn't want a man who collapses under pressure. She wants a man who remains calm inside it. Weakness tries to prove, strength simply exists. A weak man hears a question and thinks he must convince her. A strong man knows he has nothing to prove. His value is internal, not borrowed from her response. He speaks with directness. He maintains eye contact. He doesn't rush to fill silence. He lets his presence be felt more than his words. That calmness, that unshakable steadiness, is what ignites feminine attraction. Because when a man does not chase validation, he becomes magnetic. When he isn't afraid of losing her, he becomes someone she wants to stay with. Women trust men who trust themselves. They feel safe with men who are emotionally grounded. She is not evaluating your income, your looks, or your status. She is feeling your inner world. She reads your tone, your breathing, your self-respect. She notices if you fold under a question or stand comfortably in your truth. This is why older men often attract younger women, not because of age but because of presence. A man who has lived learns to respond instead of react, to observe instead of assume, to speak from truth instead of fear. When a woman senses self-control, her body relaxes, her mind opens. Her feminine energy softens, not because you dominated her, but because you guided the space with certainty. The masculine leads not by force but by stability, not by loudness but by depth. Your calmness becomes her comfort. Your confidence becomes her safety. When she feels safe, desire flows naturally. Unforced, unhurried, real. The difference between passing and failing her tests often comes down to one thing: emotional presence. A boy talks to be liked. A man speaks to be understood. A boy needs validation. A man knows his worth. A boy panics under silence. A man lets silence speak for him. She wants the man who is steady enough to listen, wise enough to observe, and confident enough to express without fear. Because in a world full of noise, she craves the man who moves with intention, not to win her but to connect with her. This is the energy that separates men in her eyes, not age but maturity, not smooth lines but grounded truth. When you embody this presence, you no longer chase her attention. You earn her respect. You don't beg to be chosen. You become the choice. Tests are not barriers meant to push you away. They are doors she hopes you can walk through. A woman does not test a man she feels nothing for. She tests the man she is curious about, the one who sparks something inside her, the one who carries potential. Her questions are reflections of desire, not rejection. They are her way of asking, are you stable enough to hold my emotions? Are you strong enough to guide this connection? She is not challenging your masculinity. She is searching for a place to rest her femininity. She wants to surrender, but only to a man who can handle the weight of her heart. A woman who craves an older man longs for depth. She wants to feel seen, not judged. She wants a man who can listen without interrupting, hold space without trying to fix everything, and stand present even when emotions rise. These tests uncover whether you are that man, not through grand gestures, but through inner steadiness. When you remain calm, her body relaxes. When your energy is consistent, her mind trusts. When your intentions are clear, her heart opens. She isn't measuring your strength by how loud you speak, but by how grounded you are when things get quiet. Many men fear her tests because they fear exposure. They worry that silence will reveal insecurity, that honesty will make them vulnerable, that composure will take effort they haven't developed. But a woman senses when a man hides behind ego. She feels when his confidence is a mask instead of a foundation. What she truly desires is authenticity, a man whose maturity comes from self-awareness, whose peace comes from inner work, whose confidence comes from knowing his own value. When you understand this, you stop seeing her questions as threats. You begin to see them as opportunities to demonstrate emotional leadership. She wants to know you won't break when she opens up. She wants to feel safe bringing her emotions, her doubts, her softness, her fire. She wants to know you can hold space for her intensity without collapsing. Because a woman in her feminine essence is abundant, not weak. She carries waves of emotion, passion, intuition, sensitivity, desire. And she tests to see if you can meet those waves without drowning. Not with control, but with presence. Not with dominance, but with grounded direction. Men often think attraction depends on looks or youth or charm. But true feminine attraction grows where she feels protected, mentally, emotionally, energetically. When she feels your steadiness, she relaxes deeper into her femininity. She becomes softer, more affectionate, more trusting. Because her tests weren't barriers, they were bridges. And when you cross them with integrity, you unlock a version of her very few men ever experience. This is the hidden beauty of being the man she tests. When you pass with calm truth, she sees you as rare. When you speak with depth instead of flattery, she feels chosen. When you hold yourself with self-worth, you awaken her admiration. She doesn't want perfection. She wants presence. She doesn't need a hero. She needs a man who stands tall in his mind, steady in his heart, and authentic in his intention. You win her not by controlling her, but by understanding her. Not by overpowering her, but by creating safety through certainty. And when she feels safe, truly safe, she lets her walls fall, her guards soften, her love expand. Her tests are not the end. They are the beginning of something deeper, if you know how to meet them. Now the real mastery begins, not in answering her tests, but in embodying the kind of presence that makes the questions unnecessary. To pass her tests is one thing. To become the man who naturally passes without effort is another. A man like that doesn't rehearse confidence, he lives it. His boundaries are clear, his purpose is strong, his self-worth is internal, not dependent on her response. When he speaks from grounded truth. When he listens with presence, not with anxiety waiting to reply. He does not fear silence. Silence becomes his power, because in silence she feels who he really is. Presence becomes the language of attraction. You don't chase her affection, you create space where her affection chooses you. You don't rush to impress. You let authenticity reveal your depth. You don't cling when she pulls back. You remain calm, knowing that desire grows in breathing room, not in pressure. You understand that masculine energy isn't loud, it's rooted, still, unshakable. A woman gravitates toward the man who moves through the world with inner certainty, not external show. The man who isn't trying to be chosen, he is ready to choose. This is how you pass her tests without even noticing them. You become the man whose presence answers before your mouth does. You carry yourself in a way that says, I know who I am. You hold steady eye contact without searching for approval in her reaction. You speak slowly because you trust your words. You don't need to rush, you don't need to perform. You exist with grounded confidence, and that alone draws her closer than any line or strategy ever could. Maturity is not about age, it is about emotional self-control. It's knowing how to feel deeply without drowning in emotion. It's expressing affection without losing dignity. It's wanting her without needing her to validate your worth. When she senses that, her heart pays attention. Women open to men who are not afraid to stay centered. Women respect men who can hold tension with grace. Women desire men who can make them feel safe without taking away their freedom. You become a magnet not through force, but through inner alignment. A stable man is a breath of fresh air in a world full of uncertainty. He doesn't react to triggers, he responds with thought. He doesn't crumble when challenged, he grows more focused. He doesn't collapse when feelings rise. He stands present enough to navigate them. That is the man she looks for. That is the man she tests for. That is the man who leads with quiet strength rather than noise. When you embody this, everything shifts. Conversations become smoother. Connection feels effortless. Attraction deepens without needing persuasion. She sees a man who can hold space, not just fill it. She feels safe opening up emotionally because she trusts you won't weaponize her vulnerability. She respects you because you respect yourself first, and respect is the foundation of lasting desire. This is the difference between being liked and being desired, being wanted and being trusted, being noticed and being chosen. When you show up as the man who leads with presence, purpose, and emotional maturity, she doesn't just test you, she invests in you. She leans in, she's soft. Ends. She gives more because you give stability. You don't chase love, you attract it by who you are when nobody's watching. You want to know how to pass her tests without trying, how to make her feel secure in your presence, how to draw her deeper into attraction with nothing more than who you are. The answer lies in embodiment. Women don't fall for explanations, they fall for demonstrated energy. You cannot speak like a king and live like a boy. You cannot claim confidence while your actions betray insecurity. You cannot demand respect you haven't earned inside yourself first. To win her trust, you must build a foundation of character that cannot be shaken by rejection, pressure, or desire. A man who earns feminine devotion does so through consistency. He honors his word, he controls his impulses, he practices restraint where others react. He doesn't rush connection because he values quality more than conquest. He doesn't seek constant reassurance because he knows who he is with or without her approval. This kind of man is rare, not because it is impossible to become him, but because few men are willing to build themselves from within. But you can, and when you do, everything changes. Imagine being the man who hears her questions and feels no panic. The man who answers calmly because truth is easy when you're not pretending. The man who looks her in the eyes and says what he means without bending to please. She feels that strength, not arrogance, not dominance, strength. The kind of strength that doesn't need volume to be heard. The kind of strength that invites trust instead of demanding it. When she senses this energy, her body relaxes, her mind opens, her defenses lower. Attraction is no longer a battle, it becomes gravity. You lead with purpose. You know where your life is heading. You wake up with goals bigger than romance alone. Women gravitate toward men who are building something, a career, a mission, a future. Not because she wants to ride your success, but because purpose is masculine oxygen. A man with purpose stands differently, speaks differently, moves differently. He doesn't chase pleasure, he chooses growth. He doesn't seek shortcuts. He commits to discipline. He doesn't need validation. He generates self-worth from effort, integrity, and vision. That energy is irresistible. The more you invest in yourself, the less you fear her tests. Because a man who works on himself becomes unshakable. Rejection cannot break him. Silence cannot weaken him. A challenge cannot derail him. He stands steady because his value doesn't collapse under pressure. This is the man she desires. The one who is not controlled by emotion but capable of holding it. The one who brings peace instead of chaos. The one who leads from strength instead of insecurity. And passing her tests naturally becomes the byproduct of who you are. You no longer answer "What do you want from me?" with uncertainty, you speak from clarity. You no longer stumble over "Why me?" You know exactly what draws you to her beyond the surface. You no longer react like a boy, you respond like a man, confident, calm, grounded. This is masculine presence at its highest form. A state where you no longer seek approval because you approve of yourself, where you no longer chase love because love is drawn to your stability, where you no longer fear tests because you are the answer to them. When you step into that identity fully, she doesn't just crave you, she respects you, trusts you, chooses you, not out of need but out of desire.